Tonight, authorities investigating what they're calling a targeted attack on a Tesla repair center in Las Vegas.
The past few weeks have been a nightmare for Elon Musk. Tesla has faced relentless attacks.
Across the country, we have seen a number of dealerships and charging stations targeted, some set on fire.
Dealerships vandalized, expensive EVs destroyed, and investors pulling out in fear. With Tesla's stock value crashing by 25%, the future of the company looked bleak. Until March 22nd.
You guys first started investigating it. When you first get in, how much of it was shocking?
Who are these individuals? How did they react when Musk exposed them? Join us as we dive deep into the shocking revelations and the major players allegedly working against Tesla.
500 protests in one day. On March 20th, a strange and anonymous leak surfaced on X not too long after the radical resistance movement made their public declaration. This post, which has now been retweeted over 10,000 times, comes from someone who had spent over an hour on a private group call, with some of those calling the shots for the organized protests. According to the source, the main group that is leading the Tesla takedowns is the Indivisible Project. They are the main organizers, according to the tweet, and they host calls every week to discuss their achievements and lay out their plans for the coming weeks. However, this week was much different. Based on what was discussed, it seemed the authorities were hot on their tails and nobody was buying their narrative of having peaceful protests anymore. So they came up with a much bigger plan, and it was beyond frightening. Based on what was heard during the call, they were planning to organize over 500 protests to begin at the same time. When was this planned to happen? On March 29th. The plan to pull this off sounded so genius yet so frightening that the anonymous source called it truly dystopian stuff. On March 21st, just 2 days after the plan leaked to the public, Elon Musk took a firm stance against the rebel group. No longer willing to hold back, he called on different government officials to crack down on these rebels with equal force. Though his tone was surprising, this wasn't the first time he had done this, according to him. He had previously called out for help from different political figures who had enough influence to do something about it, but none of them allegedly gave him an answer. His company Tesla wasn't doing very well either. Elon said in an interview that the demonstrations in recent weeks are not protests, but organized plans to cripple Tesla and hurt the American workforce. Hundreds of staff at his dealerships had reportedly quit their jobs out of concern for their families because of these groups, and now they were planning to attack hundreds of places at the same time in a matter of days. Yet those leading figures he asked for help never lifted a finger to help him. Many political analysts believe it is because Elon Musk is in the worst possible place, both as a businessman and as a politician. Many people hate him on both counts, and with the problems getting worse each day, being associated with him in either way, or even seen in a recent picture with him, could spell danger for anyone who wants to lead a peaceful life during these difficult times. No major business that operated close to its customers wanted anything to do with Elon or any of his companies anymore. After all, the last thing any business owner wanted was to have the ongoing destruction targeted at their businesses as well. For these reasons, many investors were pulling out from supporting Tesla all through the month, and the stock value plummeted almost immediately. One of these investors was Tesla's chairwoman, who sold over $43 million worth of Tesla stock in February, shortly after the first attack in late January. By March 10th, she did the same thing with a lesser sell-off of $33 million. On that same day, another board member of Tesla, who also worked as a media industry executive, offloaded over $10 million worth of Tesla shares. Less than a week later, a group of over 20 Democratic lawmakers from New York met with the state's financial supervisor. They asked the management to liquidate all Tesla shares from the state pension fund. Multiple reporters caught wind of this, and the stories they told put Tesla in a very bad light from a business perspective. As a result, nobody was sure of Tesla's future as a company, especially as many analysts and financial advisors spoke against investing in Tesla at a time like this. According to them, the last event that even comes close to what Tesla is going through happened as far back as a century ago with Henry Ford. You see, way back in 1925, Henry Ford was a leading figure in the auto industry, just like Elon Musk is with EVs today. His businesses were doing very well for a long time, and for a while it seemed like it was on top of the world. But everything changed when he started talking a lot about his political beliefs and opinions on labor laws and policies. As a result, Many buyers, labor unions, and investors stayed away from his company, and the harm it caused to Ford Motor Company took decades to recover completely from. These analysts believe the same thing is happening to Elon Musk today with the attacks on Tesla. Early in the morning of March 21st, things turned out better for Tesla as its stock came up by 5%, even with the ongoing attacks. Later on, Elon put out a tweet that gave investors more hope. In the tweet, he said that the authorities had investigated further and discovered financial links between the criminals and multiple organizations associated with extreme Democrats. According to Elon, some of these extremists have been using peaceful protests as an alibi for illegal activities. Many followers believed he was talking about the Indivisible Project and the Democratic Socialists of America. The problem was that Elon did not give any links to legal documents from the authorities he worked with to prove his tweet, so not many people took what he posted seriously. As of March 21st, these investigations continued across every state that had at least one violent assault on Tesla's property. They worked with the local authorities in cities like Portland, Oregon, and Denver, Colorado. They ramped up security in the dealership stores that had either been repaired or hadn't been attacked yet to prevent further problems. Ironically, while one would think the declining sales are just because of the violence going on in various places, the reality is that car sales have been dropping in other places as well, especially in the European market. It was already decreasing before the protests started.
Demonstrators today protesting the politics of top Trump advisor Elon Musk.
And it only got worse afterwards, particularly in countries like France and Germany. Germany is the biggest case since it is Europe's top market for electric vehicles. And surprisingly, ever since the protests began in the West, sales have only continued to decline. February was the worst month in a long time, with sales dropping as low as 76% compared to the same month last year. We know this because it was announced by the German Association of the Automotive Industry. As a popular Wedbush analyst put it last year, Tesla is Elon Musk and Elon Musk is Tesla, no matter what part of the world you're in. Despite these issues, Elon Musk urged investors and employees on March 21st not to liquidate their stock. He urged employees to stay hopeful, even though the shares had been plunging for most of the time. He said this during a little conference he organized not too far from the White House, that the future is very exciting, even though things might not be working perfectly. The rebels strike back. A few days passed, and a much bigger attack occurred, with over 12 shots fired that day. As of the making of this video, the authorities allegedly have no idea who did this, and the investigation is still ongoing with very few clues to work with. And then, the unexpected happened. Not long after the tweet was uploaded, 4 Tesla Cybertrucks were set on fire as people nearby protested, and while the investigators scrambled hard to know whether this was connected to the groups Elon called out on his platform, something even more bizarre was happening in Maryland. The words "No Musk," along with an offensive symbol, were scrawled across the Tesla store at the Owings Mills community. Things got tense on March 14th when multiple persons started vandalizing Tesla's properties at the same time. Destroying Elon's infrastructure had almost become a meme on the internet at this point. The practice was spreading to other places in California, Texas, and New York. As usual, Elon took to X and called them out by referring to them as mentally imbalanced for doing things like this. But it didn't end there. What followed were 5 days of nonstop violence against Elon's company and everything related to it. What made these attacks unique was that many other things caused the people to react the way they did. And at this point, Elon Musk wasn't only disliked by those who didn't align with his political beliefs, but also by a few of his customers as well. Why so, you may ask? Well, here is the thing. Way before the administration came around last year, global warming was an issue many people were concerned with. And one of the ways various authorities have tried to fight against it is by paying EV companies like Tesla to sell their electric cars at a huge discount. This way, more people would be interested in buying the more expensive EVs at a cheaper price, or at least be encouraged to reduce pollution and promote clean energy. According to various reports, these discounts have been in place for well over 20 years. It is allegedly because of these discounts or rebates that many people have tried out EVs in the past and stuck with them even though it wasn't their preference at first. When the current administration came in, it rolled back a lot of the discounts, with Elon Musk and many others in his department believing it was a waste of money. It got worse on March 16th, when law enforcement officials in Los Angeles caught and arrested multiple suspects who were allegedly involved in attacking Tesla showrooms. One of them was caught on camera spray painting offensive slogans on the side of a Model X. He was arrested and found guilty in court not long after. And it was on March 18th when the protest took a huge turn from the local streets to the online platforms. Various hashtags like Boycott Tesla and Tesla Burnout became top trends within hours, and destroying Tesla's property quickly became the cool thing to do. Various algorithms on different social media platforms made this more famous than intended, and all the accounts associated with Tesla were spammed with hateful comments. Many Tesla employees working at dealership stores refused to go to work by the following week after anonymous trolls sent bomb threats to their DMs. To ensure his workers were safe, Elon had to shut down the stores indefinitely. Some threatened to attack these employees at their homes since they refused to come to work, but thankfully, there were no reported injuries related to this. But the psychological damage was already done. The protesters struck back, just as they promised, and they struck back hard. Because of this, several Tesla employees quit out of concern for themselves and the safety of their families. Throughout the entire fiasco, the US president tried to keep himself out of it, but on March 19th, he did the unexpected. That day, the president openly called out the protesters for the damage they caused during a press conference. He stated that they were nothing but domestic troublemakers who deserved to spend at least 2 decades in one of El Salvador's worst prison cells. At this point, entire Tesla stores had been set on fire in multiple major cities. Worse yet, barely an hour after the president made his statement, a new group of organized protesters calling themselves the Radical Resistance Movement openly said they were the ones who did it. With no restraint, they took responsibility for the destruction of the Houston Tesla store. At this point, it seemed things had gotten out of hand. Even some protesters from other groups began to question the limits of what was acceptable to do in the name of protests. That aside, this operation seemed too much for one organization to pull off. So what other group helped with this attack? Now this is where it gets disturbing. The violent attacks in Elon's revelation. Based on current reports, there have been at least 15 documented cases of violent attacks on Tesla's stores and properties in the past 3 weeks alone. Worse yet, most of these cases are high-profile crimes, including extreme vandalism and armed assaults out in the open. So how did we get here? Let's roll the clock back to January 29th in Loveland, Colorado. It was on that cold winter morning when a Tesla dealership store was attacked by an angry protester. This person attacked from a distance by throwing a Molotov cocktail at a Cybertruck and setting it on fire. Those who worked at the Tesla dealership were frightened and called for help, but this was just the beginning.
To investigate the growing reports of attacks targeting Tesla dealers and vehicles, at least 48 incidents nationwide.
Barely 3 days later, the same dealership was attacked by the same person now wearing dark clothes. This time, the culprit was spray painting offensive words on the new Tesla cars that hadn't been sold yet. Once again, the person escaped before the authorities arrived, only to return on February 7th earlier than expected. Workers at the dealership said they arrived to see more offensive graffiti,
have been picketed in recent weeks and even targeted with criminal attacks.
with explicit words over Tesla's logo. As usual, the authorities were told about it, and after many hours of close investigation, all they could be sure of was that it was an organized crime. It was allegedly destructive, yet also done so well that the police couldn't make out who the person was or the accomplices. Those who saw the person during the crime confirmed it was a woman wearing clothes with statements that were an insult to the current administration. Aside from that, there was nothing else to know about this person. It's safe to say things weren't looking good at this point. The police had little to work with, and the dealership staff were getting worried about their safety. It wasn't until February 24th that the person was found near the location with a huge amount of gasoline bottles and other flammable materials. All the other things she was found with aligned perfectly with the previous attacks like Molotov cocktails and spray bottles. Right there, she was arrested and taken away by the authorities. Sadly, the problems only got worse from there, as barely 2 weeks passed before another Tesla dealership was attacked. This time, it was at a store in Tigard, Oregon. And what was the crime this time? Please brace yourself because this is where it gets shocking. On March 6th, according to various reports, another person was allegedly spotted firing at least 7 rounds at the dealership store. To those who saw what happened, it seemed this person didn't care whether people were still inside, directly aiming shots at the windows of the store in various parts of the vehicles outside. Later that day, another person was arrested for putting offensive stickers on Tesla vehicles that didn't belong to him. The following day, on March 7th, in North Charleston, South Carolina, another man tried to set fire to multiple Tesla charging stations with explosive cocktails. Many lives were on the line at this point, but what allegedly made him stop along the way was that he had accidentally set his clothes on fire right before he could commit the crime. Because of this mistake, he was easily spotted and arrested. He was taken away shortly after, and just like the other person, he too was seen wearing clothes with offensive statements aimed at the current administration. On March 8th, Elon Musk took to his social media platform and made a tweet that turned the entire political scene on its head. Elon earlier revealed that he had a legal investigation looking into the matter, and in this tweet, he showed that the people behind these crimes didn't do them on their own. Rather, they acted as part of various groups that were given money by a fundraising agency. This agency was Act Blue, a famous political action group in charge of raising money for the Democratic Party. Among the names he mentioned in the tweet were George Soros, Reid Hoffman, Herbert Sandler, Patricia Baumann, and Leah Hunt Hendricks. He also revealed the names of the rebel groups that were allegedly supported by these people to destroy Tesla's infrastructure. Among these groups were the Troublemakers, the Disruption Project, Rise and Resist, the Indivisible Project, and Democratic Socialists of America. Now, this is where it gets interesting. The only groups that reportedly popped out of nowhere with very little information about them in the past were the Troublemakers and the Disruption Project. Rise and Resist started as a nonviolent social justice group that was for everyone who disagreed with the results of the 2016 election. Some reports tell about their allegedly peaceful protests in the past, including the Women's March and the anti-tax reform outcries in 2017. The most consistent pattern with the Rise and Resist movement has always been about challenging rises they felt were too authoritative in political matters. They showed this in 2018 during the staged protest inside Trump Tower and the outcries in 2023 outside Twitter's headquarters not long after it got renamed by Elon Musk. They protested his opposition to DEI programs and saw it as part of a much bigger attack against social justice and progressive values. As for the Disruption Project group, they have always been about targeting entire organizations they view as destructive. Most of their operations are usually done in places where high-tech companies carry out their most ambitious projects that come with harm to the environment. Tesla has come up on their radar multiple times as one of such companies, even though they make EVs. Those within the group claim they still resist Tesla's operations because their cars rely on lithium. They believe that mining this material is not good for the environment, especially in developing countries. Oftentimes, they have stood in the way of operations, and each time they were stopped by the authorities brought in by Tesla, they argued that Elon is trying to suppress opposition, even though he cares about free speech. Because of these direct attempts that ended up with the authorities arriving to get them out of the way, the Disruption Project grew from a nonviolent group into something else entirely. Right now, they claim that Tesla's real problems aren't the attacks, but their choice to refuse to address the problems they are causing to the environment. The Troublemakers, on the other hand, have always been involved in violent protests against billionaires for years. Their current goal, to bankrupt Elon Musk and many others like him. They have been spotted multiple times disrupting tech conferences and starting protests outside the homes of CEOs they don't like. Elon came under their radar when he took over Twitter in 2022. The Troublemakers were not comfortable with this and openly called him out for having the level of power over a global platform that one person shouldn't have. This same level of scrutiny was brought upon Mark Zuckerberg not long ago, and now Elon was the new object of their demonstrations. On multiple occasions, they have called him an authoritarian over free speech, who used his influence to fight those who speak against him. When he can't get them to shut up, he buys all they have, just as he did with Twitter. After Elon Musk called them out directly on his platform, they responded by claiming his accusations were only a sign that their work was having an impact, and allegedly tried to use it to rally more support for future protests. Problems beyond the protests. With all the trials the company is going through today, it's safe to say the investors Elon spoke to during that conference weren't all that convinced by his optimism. For many political analysts, The writing is already on the wall for Tesla. This is because they were already dealing with a lot of issues before the attacks began.
Vowing to crack down on the rising number of Tesla attacks at car dealerships across the country.
Long before the steadily declining value of Tesla in recent weeks due to the endless attacks on their dealerships, there have been several problems within the company that cannot be ignored. They also point out that while Elon Musk has made waves in his exploits at SpaceX, the same cannot be said about Tesla, with or without the ongoing protests. While many today credit him for the success of the Model X, 3S, and Y, the reality is that the product plans were already drawn out before he even joined the company. The blueprints for the most successful Tesla models we have today were already laid out long before Elon became CEO and product architect for the company back in 2008. All he did was oversee the operations that had already been chosen by those before him. Aside from added software features like self-driving and the like, most of the things he did on his own as lead architect and CEO had little to do with the models already in progress and had more to do with his upcoming vehicle. This upcoming vehicle, designed from the ground up by Elon Musk, would become known many years later as the Tesla Cybertruck. This massive EV was supposed to be Elon's biggest passion project that would demonstrate to the world what he was capable of doing on his own. However, the world was not as impressed, as the first showcase of the Cybertruck quickly became a laughingstock the internet would never forget. Beyond that, many tech reviewers who had praised most of Tesla's products in the past now had a different take on the Tesla Cybertruck. Most of them saw it as something that didn't need to exist, while others took note of how sharp and dangerous the edges were. Trusted tech reviewers like Kyle Connor from Out of Spec Studios and Dan Rooney from the Good Work channel did not like the Cybertruck. Only few other reviewers like Marquez Brownlee from MKBHD Studios tried to appreciate the software and innovative features. With other problems like rusting and very expensive charges for the simplest fixes, and these reasons, some see it as no wonder the Cybertruck was the first vehicle from Tesla to be set on fire as part of the recent attacks. This is why analysts believe nobody liked his work with Tesla to begin with, and all the recent protests did was give people a chance to demonstrate how they felt all along without the political motivations. Anyway, those are just our thoughts. So why not tell us yours in the comments down below? Are you a fan of Elon Musk and Tesla? What do you like or dislike about the protests? Tell us everything, and while you are at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, click on the next video shown on your screen. You will enjoy it.